We got grips, and we've been testing them, and you've been saying, get the Kiwi ones and check them out. So let's do it. $22 is what these are gonna set you back right now. Normally $30, they are on sale. Pretty basic, they look like they only come in black so far, but hopefully that'll change because it's really not the best color, I feel like, for the Quest 3 controllers, but hey. Design here, they are silicone with texture. They replace your battery door so that you have access still, you don't take the grips off every time. An interesting detail, there is a clear-ish silicone around the top where it's gonna be kind of covering up your lights, so the infrared light should still penetrate through that and not cause any tracking issues, although we will be testing that. Hand strap, you know, it's not padded or anything, it's just rubbery. Feels like it's gonna feel okay, but not great. And then it also replaces your battery doors, like I mentioned, with black plastic battery doors. Let's try it out. Most likely I'm gonna be testing these more against the Hibloks. We'll talk about the Meta grips, we'll talk about the Apex Innos that I've been using, but this is gonna be more similar to the Hibloks because it's all silicone, it's full coverage. An important question for people who use the Meta Quest charging dock might be, oh, does it fit with those batteries in there? The door goes on, but likely this huge bit of silicone here is not gonna go inside, but that doesn't really matter because ultimately with this silicone on here, you're not gonna be able to use it in that kind of charging dock anyways. So this is gonna be with regular batteries only, not with charging docks. The idea is to take your battery out and then this tab will go inside once this is all installed so that when you put your battery in, you have that later to pull on and help get the battery out. It's gonna make it a lot easier than having to try and reach your finger in there. With that, whole thing's just gonna drop down inside. Silicone is gonna wrap around the top. And then with that newfound space of not having a battery door, this should slip inside and hopefully stay a bit more shut than that. Boom. These feel like a lot of sets that we had with the Quest 2, because a lot of them were like this with just silicone wrapping all the way around, a pretty basic hand strap. Boy. It's early, but it's kind of giving me vibes. You remember those AMVR ones we tried way back when? And ultimately I didn't love them because the buckle was in kind of a bad spot along with the rivet. It was kind of digging into my hand. This is giving me that same vibe already right here with where those two things are pushing. Hand shape is gonna change a little bit, so some people might put these on and never notice that. You know, it also depends on how tight you keep them, because if you're playing something like Gorilla Tag and you really need them tight, that's gonna wear you down. Where if you're playing something chill, like I Expect You to Die, you're gonna have it light in your hand, you're not gonna need the strap as much. It's got holes for the infrared lights here. Smaller holes than usual for those ones, but technically the headset doesn't need that infrared light too often, it's only in certain situations. And then we're gonna have to bust out our trusty infrared cam because for even just looking at the front of this, it looks to me like that is gonna be kind of blocking some of those infrareds a little bit, but that is clear silicone, so it should let the light through. So as you can see here, as we look through the infrared, the lights are showing up just fine through that silicone. They did use the more transparent one. They do have the hole in the handle showing it off as well, so it's really not something to worry about, although most grips have gotten pretty good about that, just like the Hibloks you're seeing next to it. They're completely transparent, lights are showing through, and even in testing, I couldn't get either of these to lose tracking at all. They were just as good as the normal controllers without the silicone in the way. Holding it against the Hibloks here, I kind of missed some of the details. I told you on the Hibloks I liked how it had this textured thumb pad here, there where you could rest your thumb and it kind of gripped onto it, and this is missing that. You're still just setting it on the plastic there, and then you notice that lip with your thumb. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but I feel like hand in hand right now, if you ask me which one do I like better, actually the Hibloks one. It's cheaper, comfier strap, silicone's basically all the same, but the Hibloks is cheaper because it doesn't have that battery door. So now if I need to change batteries, which is pretty rare, but if I did, you've got this door that opens up easily. That tab we talked about earlier helps you get that battery out, and then you swap the whole battery without ever having to remove your silicone grip. Whereas something like the Hibloks, when it is battery change time, you're gonna be taking the whole thing off, putting it back on, maybe wearing down the grip a little bit faster. I think it's gonna be time to go play around, test these, test them against the other grips too, see how they do. Kiwi design grips, $30 at full price, on sale for $22 right now. Cons, you know, there's not a lot to write home about. They actually are very similar to a set I used on my Quest Pro for a long time that held up well, they held on fine. Even in hard play, I found it was really impossible to get this down here where it would interact with your button. The buckle and the rivet, they're not terrible. For my hand shape, I'm not in love with them because like when you let go of the controller, if it's hanging there for a while, you just kind of notice that that weight is hanging off of this buckle itself here instead of like a nice flat strap that'd feel a little better on your hands. It's not a deal breaker. It doesn't ruin it by any means, but it's probably about the only thing I could really come up with that I wasn't fine with. Comparing them to something similar like the Hibloks here, you do get the addition of the battery door, which is nice, but I find I'm changing batteries extremely seldomly on the Quest at all. So I don't think it's really necessary. It's pretty easy to pop them out of these. Whether it comes down to whether I'm gonna keep using the ones ones I use that just work on the controller like this are the Kiwis. I am sticking with these. I still like the feeling of this, the controller better. And the silicone does retain a little bit of heat. So when you're really playing intensely, you just notice your hands stay a little hotter in these. But for what they are, they're fine. I would say the $22 price point that's on sale is better. I probably wouldn't pay 30, but at 22, if you've been interested in this, you really want something full coverage silicone, because it does add a little bit of protection. I mean, you hit something with this, you're hitting with silicone, or if you have this, you're hitting with the controller itself. So if you've been looking, I'd say they're good. They're not revolutionary. They're not changing the shape of the controller. They're not making it fit way better in your hand, but the silicone is nice and textured, so it does hold on nice even if it gets sweaty and gross. So with that, I'll leave links, but to several different grips right now. To these ones, in case this is what you're looking for, this is why you showed up. You wanted to know, do they get my seal of approval? Yeah, for what they are. They're nothing amazing. The Hibloks, if you've been interested, if you've been watching me and you like these, you want something a little bit cheaper, or still, I'm using the Apex Innos, although there has been some mixed reviews on these, especially in the comments. I've been talking to a lot of you, and it sounds like there might actually be a couple different models of these that they floated in the first place, because one person was telling me theirs has like metal screws on the inside. Other people were talking about how their clip down here was plastic. It wasn't metal like mine. The QA on these might not be quite as great. You might not be getting a reliable same product every time with these. So keep that in mind if you do decide to go, but these are the cheapest. And then Meta's own, they fit perfectly, but 40 bucks I think is just too much for grips in my opinion. So boom, Kiwi's decent. There is Aubika ones coming. Watch out for those though, because the Aubika ones for the Quest 2 were my favorites, and these ones look like they're gonna do all the same things. They're gonna charge the batteries inside the controller through the grip. They're gonna extend the controller, give you a bit more meaty, something to hang on to. But for now, if you showed up here wondering about these, good enough. What do you think? Are you rocking grips at all? Are you waiting? Are you holding out for those Aubika ones? I'd love to know. Let me know down in the comments how you're feeling. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in another reality.